as they're not winning Ukrainian army in the battlefield, they fight against civilians yet again. This is what they're good at.
Well, the Ukrainian capital Kyiv has come under sustained attack throughout this week. G7 nations are meeting today in Japan to discuss how to counter security threats from Russia and from China. President Zelensky is expected to appear. Well, we can go live to Kyiv now and speak to Dennis Ganzha, who lives in the city. He's also a co-chair president to Zelensky's Youth Affairs Council. Thanks so much for joining, Dennis.
Thank you for inviting me.
So there have been nights after nights of aerial bombardment from Russia this week. How does it feel being there? How is it coping, the city of Kyiv, with this?
When you look at the people in Kyiv these days, you see that they have this, very big bags under their eyes. And at some point when I'm talking to my friends, we have already lost some perception of reality because as it is like, today there was one more shelling, I think, and as it is the 10th or 12th shelling this month only, you can't understand what was then, because they're bombing at 4:03 a.m., which is the deepest sleep for any human being, and by breaking this sleep, the Russians really causing this loss of perception of reality of us. And you see, it's sometimes hard for me to speak, but still we are coping okay because thanks to the support of the Western partners, we have the means to hit the rockets, to hit the drones.
So you talk of big bags under people's eyes. You're noticing that, you're discussing it. Perhaps you're also wondering why now? Why is this increase in attacks now? Do you think the dates of this are significant?
For Russia, there is no significance for days. They will still do this. As soon as they have the capacity to do it, they are sending the rockets. Because, for several months, they haven't been bombing Ukraine because they have just run out of the rockets. And now, most probably, they have produced the new ones. Because if you follow some comments from if I'm not mistaken, the Office of the General Prosecutor, when they're examining the remains of the rockets, they see that they were just recently produced, like 2-3 months ago. So, I know that people in the West and even people in Ukraine, we like the tendency to seek that there is some sacred meaning in the date why Russia is doing this today. They will still do it despite the date, despite the Ukraine's action, because their main aim is to wipe out Ukraine from the map and wipe out Ukrainian nation.
Can I go back to what you were saying at the beginning about these sort of mental impact of bombing between 3 and 4 in the morning? We don't really think necessarily about the sort of mental effect. We think of the physical devastation that they want to cause with bombs, but you feel that the Russians are thinking about wearing you down with bombing at that time.
Okay, let's look at what is happening on the battlefield. Russians do not have any successes against big successes against the Ukrainian army. Right now, you hear in the news that Ukraine is ready to most probably to start the counteroffensive. We are taking the flanks in Bakhmut, which means a very big problem for Russians. And what they can do, as they're not winning the Ukrainian army in the battlefield, they fight against civilians yet again. This is what they're good at. Because I have been to Donbass just yesterday, and I've talked to several commanders and what they have seen. And in the battle one-on-one, never a Russian soldier wins a Ukrainian soldier, but only with the means of the artillery, with all these rockets, with millions of aviation, they can do some success. So their aim, most probably with all these rocket attacks, is just to show to ordinary Ukrainians, I don't know why they think that this will stop us, but they want to say us, stop the war, stop Zelensky, don't let him win. I don't know that this will work for them, because we didn't care about what they're sending to Kiev, because we trust to our armed forces of Ukraine.
We're talking about President Zelensky. He's due to arrive, as you know, at the G7 in Japan this weekend. Tougher sanctions against Russia are a point of discussion. Do you think he'll be able to persuade countries at the G7 to adopt them to a sufficient level that he would like to see?
You know how diplomacy works, because most probably all, like, I'm speaking not as the representative of his Youth Affairs Council, as what I know, that whenever there is the high meetings, of course they have some pre-arrangements. So let's see what they will really discuss. Let's see what will be released in the final communique. But it's really good, and we have seen this in the recent weeks, that the West is not tired of supporting Ukraine. The West is ready to send more aid to us, especially in the militaries. And I do think that the West at some point is ready to do some final shots to the Russian economy, because this is our chance to stop Putin. And I have been saying this for all of the year at all of the British medias, that we have a chance to stop this and not let Russia go any further than Ukrainian borders. So let's do it.
Dennis Ganzha, who's in Kyiv, many thanks for joining us on Times Radio this morning. Great to hear from you.